California Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley left the party and went independent. He's trying to hold that seat amid redistricting. And with those kind of battles brewing in California and Virginia and other states, and both parties fighting for every seat, is there a warning sign for the political parties heading into the midterms? Well, let's talk about it with our friend Lindsey Drath, CEO of the Forward Party, former Republican strategist, up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. Welcome back. Great to see you again.
Thanks, Jim. Glad to be here.
We have, I think right now, these midterms are always crucial, but there's so much attention being paid to them because of redistricting. And in places like Virginia, where this was a nonpartisan endeavor for some time, there's a lot of attention being focused on political maneuvering and sort of not so much on the issues this time around.
I think it's important that voters understand exactly what redistricting is in this context. The redistricting war that we're seeing across the country that kicked off in Texas with President Trump asking Governor Abbott to lead a redistricting effort. Governor Newsom in California, responded in kind with Proposition 50. And what you're seeing in Virginia, these are elected officials choosing their voters. That truly is what's happening here. They are drawing districts to choose their voters. And the result, unfortunately, for the American people is going to be increasing partisanship. So what you're going to be seeing is these more ideologically kind of carved out and specific districts. So you're going to have candidates that are going to be running to the far extremes of their bases because they no longer have the diversity of ideologies represented in those districts. So Virginia, early voting starts on Friday. So all of your Virginia registered voters, make sure that you're participating in this conversation. The Virginia Independent Redistricting Commission, when it passed, and the way Virginia law works is it had to pass the General Assembly twice. Right. So in 2019, they crafted this bill. It passed unanimously in the Senate, 40-0. Okay, it also passed in the House. Then, because of Virginia law, it had to pass the General Assembly a second time. What's interesting is in that interim period, the majority flipped. Yeah, that's right. So the first time it passed in 2019, you had a Republican majority in the Virginia General Assembly. Fast forward to 2020, it passed again with a Democratic majority. So you really see that the lawmakers themselves came together in a way to build coalition around this bipartisan issue, and then it went to the voters in the fall of 2020 when it passed. So this isn't just something that happened overnight. This had to pass the General Assembly twice overwhelmingly and then go to voters. That's what they're trying to undo right now.
And this is not how it played out in Texas, because there was not a process where voters had a say. California, they had a say with redrawing these maps. The Virginia effort, they're saying this is temporary. It's going to reset after the 2030 census. I mean, I think it's a very good point. Some people brought up, like, hey, look, if you are if you're a Dorothy McCullough, for example, who's running in the 7th district, they redrew this district and you win and you run in that district, what would be the incentive to undo that? Because suddenly it's not there anymore.
You said the exact word, Jim. It's the incentives. What are we doing to incentivize our elected officials to behave in a bipartisan fashion, to go to state houses or to go to the United States House of Representatives and function in a way that actually authentically represents their constituents? So look what happened in Texas last week. We had the Texas primaries after gerrymandering. So it was one of the first states where we got to see what happened. Dan Crenshaw has been a decidedly bipartisan member of the Republican caucus, and he lost.
Bipartisan, but also somebody who, I mean, when you look at his record, certainly somebody who was not an opponent of President Trump. He was a staunch supporter, of a lot of these policies.
He was a real conservative. He was a strong voice on national security. The guy's a former Navy SEAL. Like, we're unelecting Navy SEALs. That's what's happening in these districts, because you've got folks that are running in this really ideologically pure and divisive way, and it's not the rhetoric that the American people are looking for. And I know that people feel right now that there needs to be a tit for tat, which is why you had Newsom respond to Abbott in the way he did. But it's not good for our democracy.
Understanding that, I think there's a lot of people who say, well, this is for Democrats. They think Democrats weren't fighting back enough through different efforts in the years, different issues through the years, and they believe that this is the way to go about that.
Unfortunately, you're going to see Democrats losing seats as well. No one can tell whether or not this is going to benefit one party over the other in the fall.
And what's interesting California-wise, because we mentioned Kevin Kiley, who he's running for re-election, going to run as an independent. California has this jungle primary where everybody runs at once, and then it's top two, they move on to the general election. And I know we're not talking about the gubernatorial election right now. However, what's interesting is polling's coming out saying there's so many candidates in this race, so many Democrats and a couple of Republicans. There's a possibility in California where you might have top two Republicans, where Democrats may be shut out of it altogether when it comes to the gubernatorial election in November.
Absolutely. I mean, California has actually under Governor Schwarzenegger really led on a lot of these reforms. So
God, remember that? That was a long time ago.
Governor Schwarzenegger. Well, this was, and California's redistricting initiative also also is indicative of something that passed twice.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just this one-off thing. It passed for the first time specific to state legislative and local races, and then they went back to the voters again in 2010 and said, do you like this on a local basis? You do? Let's pass it for Congress.
We're just out of time. I want to ask you, though, ballot referendums, are those a good idea when you have the people involved with these issues that are often decided legislatively?
At the Forward Party, we believe that anything that takes decisions directly to the voters is better. Anything that encourages participatory democracy is better because, again, going back to the incentive systems, elected officials do pay attention to their voters. The problem is that we're carving it out in ways where they're paying attention to the squeakiest wheels, and they're not really getting broad appeal from the voters. When you have a participatory democracy, I believe you get better results all the time.
Ranked choice voting, something Forward Party champions, going to be used in the D.C. primary this year.
Sure is. Shout out to Lisa Rice and the leaders on that effort. It's going to be really exciting to have independent voters participating, including me. I'm a registered independent in the District of Columbia, participating for the first time this year.
Lindsay, great to see you as always. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Jim.